Hello, this is Greg, the Redleg A1. I'm coming to you from the Peaceful Glen Homestead in Dinwiddie, Virginia. This is the home of the Central Virginia Permaculture Institute and Key Point Enterprises. This is a permaculture designed urban homestead. This property is roughly 14 miles from the center of Colonial Heights, Virginia. And what we're doing here today is we're looking at this plot of land, and it's the annual bed plot. I started it as a wood chip plot, so there's roughly 24 inches of wood chips that have degraded and decomposed in here over the last 3 years. I've planted in it multiple different times, and last winter in October I came in and planted this stuff that you see here that's on its last leg, and it's got some brown in it and so forth. This is Austrian Winter Pea, and it's a fabulous cover crop. It also is a food, it's a nutrient dense food crop for wildlife such as deer and so forth. So yeah, I've created a attractant to my garden, but I'm going to plan for 50% loss to begin with. And what we're doing now is we're planning out Squanto's garden. So what I'm going to show you here is what I call a planting station. This plot is roughly 35 feet wide and maybe 70 or 80 feet long. And if we look at this, you can see here's some really nice, still nice green stuff, but it's definitely on its last legs. Here's a pod. That pod is not completely filled out. There's thousands and thousands of them in this spot. Here we go. Here's one that what I'm going to try to do is pull it off. Yep, I just opened it up and so there you go. That's what the pea looks like, and when I squeezed it, it split, and it probably had about 6 peas in it. It does look, very much like a sweet pea, but it is it's not sweet. It does have a good flavor to it, and I'm sure you could eat it. You could eat it just like you would a pea. We haven't tried to do that yet because I'm using this as I'm going to let everything reseed itself and go back to a cover crop in the winter. All right, so here's all my seeds that I plan to put in here. This bucket, or this bag here, excuse me, this box is roughly 12 inches long. So there's a planting station right here that I just planted out, and I used the box to go to the next planting station, and I planted one out here. So what I'll do is move this box here, and then I'll take this little tool here, and actually my youngest son made this tool for me. He took 2 tools that this handle had a really dangerous head on it, so I said cut that off and use that handle. Then you just grab this little rake here. It's a metal piece, and he slammed it in, drilled a hole first, and then he slammed it in, and then the wood split, so he put a hose clamp around it. Anyway, so it's reusing a tool, two tools that had kind of boogered up on us. And what I'm going to show you here is how friable this soil is. I can actually go down there with my fingers and just, you know, we've got 24 inches of good wood chips on here, and then we've got organic matter from a couple of seasons of planting and leaving roots back in there. There is some grass growing in here, and for each planting station what I'll do is pull the, I don't know if you can see that with the, yeah, maybe with the shadow is, so anyway, this, I can dig this down pretty deep, and we've still got organic material. Yeah, we've got our organic material way down there, probably I would say 12 inches of good organic material. All right, so here's how I'm going to plant out the Squantos. This is a little bag of ocra seeds that I've held over from year to year. And in this planting station here, we've got some corn. And in this one, I'll plant okra. And basically, I'm just going to take 4 or 5 okra seeds, and then I'll just kind of work them in like that, real lightly, and then reach over and grab a couple of pole bean. That's actually 5 pole bean. I've been putting 4 in the hole, but putting 5 won't matter. And then I'll reach into the squash bin or cup, and I'll pull 4 or 5 squash. Now I have a combination, a little canister here with, it's just a plastic little thing, and I've got a combination in here of butternut, excuse me, this is spaghetti squash and acorn squash in that batch, and then in this little bottle here I have some butternut squash. So I'm going down this area and I'm planting either acorn or spaghetti squash, and in that row right over there, actually not rows, but in that section I planted butternut. So I'm alternating and I'm going in one planting station with corn, and then the other planting station I'm going in with okra. So both the corn and the okra have good solid stalks that will allow the pole beans to grow up onto the stalks, and in the squash, or a vining plant, that will spread out and provide a weed suppression, and it'll provide shade at the ground level, keep the soil moist, keep the microbiology going. And now the rest of this garden plot, and I'll show you a couple of items. This is this right here is a beefsteak tomato. It's a hybrid version, but that's okay. And what I do is I grow these out in my greenhouse until they get about 18 to 24 inches tall, and they're kind of leggy, and then I'll strip the stems off all the way down to the root ball and leave just this little top piece on. And I put my tomato cage on, and these are just metal wire. It's wire that you use in a concrete slab, and a friend of mine gave them to me that he built, a guy by the name of Steve Howard, and he just rolled them up and took the pieces of wire and clipped a long piece out of it, and then stitched it together, and he ended up giving me about 25 of these cages. So today I've got 2, 4, 6, 8. I've got 10. I got a row here of 10 tomatoes, and they're on the northern side of the bed because they're going to grow tall, and you want them to not shade out so much of everything else. And plus, I can access these tomatoes on the edge of the bed here with little issue at all. Just reach up in there and grab the tomatoes. And so I have basically an 18 to 24 inch deep hole here, and I dig it with a post hole digger and drop compost down in there, along with a mixture of organic additives, such as you can get organic potash. If you don't realize that, you don't have to support the chemical industry with all that. And anyway, there's here's a nice little tomato that's already growing, and I just planted these like 4 days ago. And this one here is a Cherokee Purple. Let's see here. Let's move on. Going back to the tomato nutrient additives that you can put in here. Oh, look here. I spotted all right, here's a cherry tomato, and pull that little baby off. Pop her in the mouth. Nice. Okay. Go to the Executive Gardener on YouTube, and you'll see a good mix. It's his mix. He describes it, explains the whole thing, and I've taken parts and pieces of his mix and made my own. He uses things like kelp. There's a bunch of stuff. He does use some things in addition to his mix, but I'll let you decide whether or not you want to use that. So what I've done here on this edge of the bed is all around, kind of in this crescent shape here, I've planted yellow crookneck squash, and in about 50 days I'll be getting a harvest on that, and that goes all the way around here, stops here. So this bottom piece, I say bottom, left side, around the edge of the bed here, I've planted the yellow crookneck squash, and that'll give us plenty, and plus we can give to other folks and so forth. Now, Squanto's garden is designed and laid out more or less in an oval or a circle, and there's some specific reasons why he does that, but we won't try to cover that here. I've just kind of done a random pattern throughout this bed, and I probably have over 100 planting stations in this bed using the method that I just showed you right over there. So if you figure 4 corn seeds per station, and 4 climbing beans and 4 squash and 5 or 6 okra in the other ones, we've got quite a bit of stuff planted in here in this small area. Planting dense is a good idea, but you have to be strategic about planting dense, because planting densely can sometimes cause you a little bit of challenges, especially if you have things that tend to get some kind of a mold or a fungus on it. So you have to kind of watch that. This piece of the garden up here is where I'll plant sweet potatoes. I've actually got sweet potatoes planted in here now, and in between each tomato plant. So for instance, here's one here. And these sweet potatoes, what I'll do is keep them trained to stay out here where the tomatoes are and not get back up into the garden bed, and kind of segregate them a little bit, because everywhere the tomato vine touches soil, it'll root out and produce another tomato. So the plan is to completely fill this area in with the sweet potatoes. I've also randomly thrown out, just hand tossed, some Sweet Baby Ray watermelons, some Carolina Red watermelons, some cantaloupes, and a couple of other melons. So we'll see how they do. That's just kind of an experiment. I mean, if you think about it, 4th of July, people have watermelon at the end of their picnic. Well, what do people do when they're done with the watermelon? They spit it out, and it never, you don't have somebody going out there drilling a hole and planting it in the soil. So my guess is we're going to have some watermelon spring up here. But again, it's just an experiment. Okay, that's enough for now. This is the Red Leg A1 out here from the Peaceful Glen Homestead. Thank you much. We'll talk to you soon.